Onto the workshops, Wiki and Lear taking you through the painting and finishing of our severed head video.
So we start off with a sprayed layer of latex over the base. This is just to give it some base pigment all over, move it all to flesh tone.
Yep, so we're mixing up some buff titanium and some portrait pink. Give it a stir into some latex. Make sure it's nice and mixed in. You can see there's a few lumps there, so we keep stirring.
And you'll note we're doing this in the spray booth so that it's properly extracted.
We're adding a few pinches of flock, which is something you'd normally do with silicone. I was just giving it a go here to see if you get some speckling on the surface of the latex. It worked quite well.
We're using this in the spray booth. You can obviously brush it on, but you'll get more brush strokes. We prefer the texture you get from the spraying.
Yeah, so we just spray the latex over the whole surface. I'm not doing the neck because that's all latex and about the right colour anyway. And then we're just going to spritz on some thin down inks over the surface to get some blotchy patterns on the skin.
Next, brushing in a few of the details. So again, mixing up a little bit of paint. It's a mixture of acrylic paint and a sort of prosade.
And acrylic prosthetic adhesive.
Yep. And that's to give the paint a little bit of stretch so it doesn't just crack off the surface of your thing.
So we mix up some red and then we add a little bit of purple just to darken it down.
And make it a little more fleshy.
And then we're just going to work that into the whole of the neck area. Just keep pushing it right the way in. We're trying to just basically cover up any of the flesh tone foam we use to adhere everything,
yep.
And any of the browny red of the nurnies and stuff. At this point we're avoiding the vertebrae a bit, but not massively, so it all gets covered up later, but I just want to be able to see any hint of tonal variation of bone to other things if it happens to show up later.
Yeah, and it's going around the edges as well. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. That'll come out with the airbrushing, and you can't cut the head off without getting a little bit of blood over.
Yeah, it's all going to get covered in fake blood before use anyway, so I'm not too worried about those edge details.
Yeah.
It's just going to get literally dumped in a bucket of blood before it's used.
So we're darkening the paint slightly here. It's we're going to put layers and layers and layers on this, so it's got different depths and textures of colour.
Yeah, we're just adding some ink so it's a bit runnier, so it goes even further into the structures we made on the neckline.
Really makes everything stand out, and shows us all the shapes and stuff we've put into that bit.
Just keep pushing and moving it around, letting it flow up the sides a bit and go wherever it wants to go, really. There's no real art or science to this, just slap it on, get it in. It'll all get cleaned up as it goes further through the process. Again, now we're just adding neat dark red ink, I think that was.
Yeah, it's your standard acrylic ink, isn't it?
This is calligraphy ink.
Oh.
Again, just over the neck. Then we use a dark brown.
To add even more dark patches almost as a wash through it. Are you letting it dry in between these layers, or have you just sat and done the whole thing at once?
Just did it all in one go so they all blend together.
Yeah.
I didn't want any variation, and then it's just smudging some ink around the fingers.
Yep.
Go on to the eyes. This is white of the eyes, which is white acrylic mixed with a little bit of portrait pink just to soften off the harshness of the white.
And again with the adhesive in to make sure it doesn't crack.
Yeah. Then onto the bark, which is just brown and adhesive mixed up.
And starting with the brown base coat on that. And then we'll put some ink washes over it afterwards.
So just lay it on over, keeping onto the textures of the actual bark pieces.
With our actual bark, we generally don't, when we usually make up the sheets, we won't need to do the layers of acrylic on the base because we'll just make it up in latex that's been coloured already. But here, because we've had to paint, because it's been attached to the head, it's had so much going on, we need to put that brown layer back on.
Oh, it's because we painted back over it.
Yeah, and because we sprayed over it, sprayed over the whole head. So we need to put the brown back on and also then put our acrylic washes over.
This is just a dark brown acrylic ink wash.
And that will retreat back into the crevices and gaps to make it look darker. And yeah, again, give it more depth, make it look a bit more interesting. And a little bit more real. And you can see the splattering where we sprayed the ink over the head earlier. You can see the texture on that. It looks a bit odd over the back of the head, but that'll be covered up by the hair once we put the hair on.
Yeah, I would have fixed it with going over it with more paint if I wanted. Now onto the airbrushing, we've got a nice warm pink tone for the lips and the cheeks and the ears, and a general light mottling pass over the whole thing just to break up the surface. touch the neckline a bit just to let those colours carry through. But mostly it's just about creating another layer of variation on the skin tone.
And this is a darker brown?
Yeah, this is our smoke mix, which is going to go around the edge of the bark and add any details to that, and add a little bit of rough veining coming off the bark pieces just to blend them into the surface like the guy's makeup in the original photo.
So it's going to go around each of the bits of bark with that one. And then I imagine that just add a few more details in darker colour.
Yeah.
So once we've got the bark...
Again, just mottle over, add some shading, just work into the nostrils, and generally just pick up any of the recessed parts of the face.
Is this still in the brown?
Yes, it's all in smoke, very light passes.
Cool.
Again, touch the neck, go into between the lips.
And it's again, I keep saying again, it's adding depth and highlights to, well, not highlights, it's adding the depth.
It's adding shadow.
It's adding the shadow, the opposite of the highlights.
Now we're going in with black, which we're going to use very sparingly, just in the nostrils, the ears, just a touch between the lips, a tiny bit on the bark, and then add the eyes. We've just added the eyes in just black because they're dead lost eyes. I'm not worried about the colour match particularly on this.
I'm not sure we could even see the colour in the photo.
No, I think he's got brown eyes and it's dark, it's fine.
But yeah, that'll do fine. And you can see as soon as we put those eyes in, it looks a lot more real.
Yep. Now onto the hair work. This is challenging because it's very short hair, so I'm just marking the hairline on with a flesh tone pastel, which you can barely see on the latex, but I can see it when I'm working. Then we're going to make up some flock.
This is just good quality fake fur because we can't get the flock in the colours we want in the length we need for this. So we're shaving a bit of fur down to make that.
Then we'll cut it up in it with some scissors just to break it apart.
Yep. Again, we have extraction running through the box on the table that we're flocking through. And
because flock goes everywhere if you don't extract it down. That's me earthing the thing because this thing runs at 10,000 volts.
Probably won't kill you, well, it will really hurt if you accidentally touch it, so we've got to be a bit careful about that. Wookie's painting on a layer of glue to the top of the head.
Yep.
We're going to do a second layer in a minute. We do change the camera angle so you can see. So we'll do a second layer there, and then we flock, and obviously the flock sticks to where the glue is and stands up nicely. We're not just using the shaved hair as flock. We've got some others bags on the table. You can see 2 different browns there, which are different lengths and different colours.
Yeah.
Which will give us a nice mix of, make the hair a little less even.
So we're going in with a second layer of Prosaid now. Just again brushing over the whole surface we want the flock to adhere. What I missed out on this time is I should have stippled the edge round the sides and the back. I ended up with a bit of a stark line in places. But live and learn. You see we're covering over the very heavy speckles from the spritzing, so we're not worried about that.
Yep. We're starting with our longest flock.
Yeah, you should always go longest to shortest because the shortest will fill in all the space really easily. You see it's quite a lot of hard work to make the longer fibres come out of the flocking machine.
We've got 2 different cuts for this, one for smaller stuff, one for larger stuff, but actually what we're using here is probably longer.
Yes, it's longer.
Is longer than the longest one is designed for, really.
It's fine. And there you can see it's all electrostatically standing.
Yeah. And then filling up with slightly shorter stuff.
I'm just mixing up a blend of colours there, I think.
Yeah, I think you've got the 2 different browns going in.
Yeah, and you can see it just starts to darken up almost immediately.
And that's, again, as we say, the shorter stuff fills in a lot of the space very quickly.
He's not very, very short yet. There's another pass where I go even shorter, which fills in all the space.
Yep.
There you go.
That's it. And that suddenly darkens everything up.
I'm trying not to put too much down the sides. I'm trying to replicate a faded, shaved hair effect. Then I'm just gently brushing with a very soft brush the hair to give it some directionality.
Yep.
So
once that's done, we then walk away and leave it for a bit.
Yeah, leave it overnight.
Before we come back.
So just adding some eyebrows, bit of glue, bit of flock, then another layer of slightly shorter flock, gentle brush out into the direction. And they have the hair. Looks very much like an Action Man.
It really does at the moment.
Just putting some gloss varnish onto the eyes there so they stay a bit shiny. And then we're just darkening up the top of the hair because this is a bit orange-brown. The guy's got much sort of darker brown hair. But using the paler colour means that I can
make it look like it's got the fade on the side of the head, yeah.
You see it's just darkening up the top and the sides look less dark, so they look more faded. And there you go. One severed head. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed.
Don't forget to
like, subscribe, share, do all those things.
And come back for the next
a new series, Making an Oversized Mask. Thanks a lot. Bye.